can't be free until you stop chasing peace. That's the brutal truth most people never hear, because it's easier to chase than to encounter. You think peace is a destination, a moment of arrival, a tidy space at the end of a long, chaotic road. But that road only exists because you've been running from fear, from pain, from yourself. You've been chasing peace like it's something you can earn, something you can manufacture, something you can conquer. But peace is never chased. Peace is returned to. And the fact that you don't feel it relentlessly, quietly, steadily, it's because you've been chasing it in the wrong direction, through friction, through distraction, through performance. Carl Jung said that the psyche wants wholeness, not perfection. And wholeness begins not with accumulating tranquility, but with releasing the friction you created in pursuit of it. This is psyphoria, the illusion that peace is found in control. That if you manage yourself well enough, silence will eventually grow. But management creates noise. It fractures your center. It turns peace into another checklist to be accomplished. You chase peace by fixing timelines, perfecting results, curating an image. But peace dissolves under that weight. Peace begins the moment you stop chasing peace and let it arrive. This is the transformation of mindset. From performance to presence. From doing to being. From friction to flow. Your beliefs shape what you fight for. Do you believe life deserves the fullest version of you, even in imperfection? Or do you wait to earn your worth through outcomes? When your belief is built on outcomes, peace is always a stranger. When your belief is built on essence, peace becomes your baseline. Clarity emerges when you live from truth, not trend. Vision unfolds when you stop trying to orchestrate life on your terms and start allowing it to co-direct with your soul's rhythm. Purpose aligns when you stop proving and start becoming. Gratitude doesn't exist in scarcity. It blooms in surrender when you release the need to control the external to feel safe internally. Discipline isn't war, it's devotion. Not to goals imposed from outside, but to the inner alignment that makes every action an act of presence. Not panic. Action born from alignment doesn't exhaust, it expands. You don't hustle for peace, you become it. That's resilience. That's adaptability. That's the unshakable. You no longer chase peace. You are peace. Stop identifying with the chaos. Stop carrying other people's storms. Stop letting approval be your compass. Release the performance persona. Withdraw your energy from what doesn't belong. Because you don't find peace behind noise, you expose it by letting noise fall away. You don't chase alignment, you step into it when fear loses its grip and you choose clarity. You don't manage your journey, you trust it. When that trust becomes fluid, when boundaries are boundaries, not barricades, your peace shifts from guest to home. When your yes becomes intentional and your no becomes sacred, you stop chasing peace and start holding it. And when you hold it, you don't need to chase. You don't need to hide. You become undeniable, not loud, not aggressive, not desperate, but magnetic. Because peace doesn't scream to be heard. It whispers and the soul recognizes it. The world may not understand. It may label your peace as weakness, your stillness, as quiet ambition, but you'll know. You'll remember what it was like to chase peace only to lose yourself in the process. You can't be free until first you stop chasing what you think peace looks like and pause enough to feel what it actually island. This is the liberation born from trust. This is the sovereignty birthed in silence. This is the ending of chasing and the reclaiming of a life that doesn't demand you perform. This is your return. This is your evolution. This is you walked in, aligned, whole, finally free. Because freedom, real freedom, isn't loud. It's not an explosion. It's not a peak moment in front of cameras or a standing ovation. It's quiet, still, profound. It's when you wake up and no longer need to brace yourself for the world. It's when you enter a room and don't shrink or inflate. You just are. It's when your value no longer depends on outcomes, on applause, on whether or not today feels productive. On, because freedom means you no longer confuse activity with alignment. It means you no longer barter your inner world for temporary comfort. It means your sense of worth is no longer at the mercy of external chaos. You are no longer addicted to fixing what was never broken, just buried. You are no longer seduced by the idea that peace is found in perfection. You know now peace is the ground beneath your feet when you finally stop running. That's the secret. Peace isn't earned through the violence of self-denial. It's revealed through the grace of self-acceptance. And grace is not passive. Grace is fierce. It's what allows you to walk away from everything that doesn't mirror your truth. It's what gives you the strength to speak without over-explaining, to love without losing yourself, to rest without guilt. That's what happens when you stop chasing peace. You stop betraying yourself. You stop dressing up your nervous system in ambition and calling it success. You stop confusing overthinking for intelligence. You stop seeking in others what you already possess in your silence. And the moment that happens, you don't need closure. You don't need permission. You don't need to explain the version of yourself that finally made it out alive. Because the person you've become, they don't need to be understood. They just need to be. That's the beginning of clarity. That's the threshold of vision. That's the first breath of a life that doesn't revolve around surviving but thriving in your truth. You used to chase peace like a mirage. Now you sit in it like a throne. Because now you remember. You can't be free until you stop chasing peace. But the moment you stop, peace chases you. And when peace chases you, when it no longer hides behind your expectations, your deadlines, your control, everything starts to shift. Your energy becomes expensive. Your presence becomes precise. Your standards become sacred. Because now you don't move to be seen. You don't speak to be validated. You don't show up to be accepted. You are seen. You are valid. You are accepted because you've accepted yourself. And this is where real power lives. Not in control, but in coherence. Not in having all the answers, but in no longer needing them to be okay. You've spent your whole life chasing a version of peace that looked like absence of pain, absence of problems, absence of pressure. But peace was never the absence of challenge. It was the presence of inner truth in the face of all of it. You used to escape into fantasy, hoping peace would meet you there. Now peace follows you through reality because you're finally whole enough to hold it. You've stopped trying to clean your wounds with perfection. You've stopped trying to decorate your trauma to make it digestible. You've stopped weaponizing productivity to outrun your emptiness. You turned around. You faced the fire. And in doing so, you realized the thing you were running from was never peace. It was the silence that leads you to it. And yes, the silence can be terrifying because it strips you bare. It shows you what's still bleeding. It shows you who you still pretend to be. But if you stay in the stillness long enough, you'll hear it. That rhythm underneath the noise, that current beneath the chaos, that breath that has always been waiting for you to return to it. That's where peace lives. Not outside you, not ahead of you, within you. And now that you've stopped chasing it, you realize something even more terrifying and liberating. It was never gone. You just kept running too fast to feel it. But now you're still. Now you're here. Now you're home. And peace? Peace is where it's always been. In you. In you not as an achievement, but as your original state. Before the world taught you that peace had to be earned. Before you were told your worth was conditional. Before you were convinced that silence meant something was wrong. Before you learned to associate stillness with laziness, rest with weakness, and surrender with defeat. That peace, that stillness, that sacred quiet, it never left. It just got buried beneath layers of pretending. It drowned under your performance. It disappeared behind the mask you wore so well that you forgot it was a mask. But masks crack, and when they do, what's revealed isn't shame, it's truth. The truth that your soul has always been whispering beneath the noise. Stop, you're already enough. Come home. And now finally you're no longer the one begging life to calm down. You're the one whose calm makes life slow to meet you. You're no longer trying to win every room. You are the room. Your presence speaks louder than your plans. Your energy speaks louder than your words. Your peace speaks louder than any apology you'll never have to give again. Because you are no longer bending yourself into fragments to be understood by people who refuse to meet you whole. You're no longer explaining your boundaries. You embody them. You're no longer filtering your truth. You live it. And here's what's wild. The quieter you become, the louder the world hears you. Not because you've disappeared, but because you finally appear as who you truly are. That's the paradox of peace. When you stop chasing it, you don't just find it, you become it. And when you become it, you become dangerous to systems built on fear, to people addicted to chaos, to versions of yourself that once believed peace was something you had to fight for. Number. Peace is not a war. It's a return. It's a remembering. It's the power of knowing you need nothing more to be worthy of everything real. And the moment you know that, you're no longer a seeker. You're a mirror, reflecting truth, radiating calm, reminding the world wordlessly what freedom really looks like. You can't be free until you stop chasing peace. But once you do, peace sets you free. And once peace sets you free, there is no going back. No returning to the noise that once numbed you. No shrinking into roles that once defined you. No tolerating the energies that once drained you. Because now, your soul remembers its natural state. Not chaos, not pressure. Presence. The world may still whirl in drama. The winds of urgency may still blow. But you move from center. You move with rhythm, not reaction. With grace, not grind. Because peace isn't passive. Peace is power under control. It's not about doing less, it's about doing what's real. It's not about isolating, it's about choosing connection that doesn't cost you clarity. It's not about silence, it's about truth that no longer needs to shout to be heard. You become surgical with your time, precise with your focus, selective with your yes, not out of ego, but because your energy has value. And you no longer spend it on what doesn't invest back into your peace. You stop showing up in rooms that ask you to perform. You stop entertaining people who love the performance but fear the person. You stop trying to rescue what doesn't want to be rescued. And that's when you feel it. Freedom, not as a goal, but as a frequency. It hums beneath your skin. It walks with you. It doesn't need to announce itself because it is not a performance, it is a presence. You are the frequency. You no longer live for peace. You live as peace. And the world bends, not because you demanded it, but because it cannot ignore what is unalterably true. You, alive, aligned, whole, unchained by outcomes, unmoved by noise, unreachable by manipulation. This is who you are. When you stop chasing, this is what waits for you on the other side of force, of fear, of pretending. Stillness, clarity, freedom, and peace that doesn't come and go like a guest, but lives in you, moves through you, and reminds the world what it forgot. That true power isn't loud. It's peaceful, and true peace isn't found. It's remembered. And in that remembrance, you reclaim the most sacred truth of all, that you were never broken, never behind, never too much or not enough. You were only disconnected from the voice within you that didn't scream but whispered, the voice that didn't rush but waited, the voice that wasn't desperate to be heard, only felt. That voice was peace. And now it is you. You don't chase timelines anymore. You don't obsess over who's ahead or behind. You've exited the race entirely because you've realized there is no finish line when you are the path. You don't wake up to fix your life. You wake up to live it, deeply, honestly, deliberately, because now you understand the greatest rebellion in a world addicted to chaos is to be calm, to be deeply, utterly, unshakably at peace. And not because everything is perfect, but because you are. You are in integrity with yourself. You don't chase healing anymore. You let it rise through presence. You don't chase love, you embody it. You don't chase purpose, you align with it. And in that alignment, you move through life like a tuning fork, vibrating with such clarity that anything false can't hold on. Anything forced falls away. And you don't mourn what leaves, because you know what's real never runs. What's real doesn't need to be chased. What's real meets you at your frequency, at your clarity, at your peace. So now, you don't rush decisions, you let them ripen. You don't rush connections, you let them reveal. You don't rush success, you let it unfold in divine rhythm. And this is not passivity. This is not indifference. This is sovereignty. The full return to your inner authority. The refusal to outsource your peace to anything temporary. And once you live like this, you never go back. You don't crave the old version of life. You don't negotiate with noise. You don't barter for belonging. You simply live, present, powerful, peaceful, because you've stopped chasing. And in doing so, you've arrived. Arrived not at a destination, but at a state of being so grounded, so alive, so crystal clear, that the world no longer feels like something to survive. It feels like something to co-create. Because now you're not bending under pressure, you're bending with purpose. You're not fighting the current, you're swimming in rhythm with something far more ancient than thought, deeper than language, more alive than any fear that once defined you. You've become fluent in stillness, a master of restraint not out of fear, but out of sovereign selection. You no longer need to prove you've arrived, because your energy says it for you. You sit across from people and no longer shrink to make them comfortable. You stand inside your truth and no longer edit yourself for approval. You walk into spaces and your silence speaks louder than their noise. Because you are now rooted. And people feel that they feel the difference between someone chasing peace and someone who is peace. They feel the difference between someone trying to win life and someone already in harmony with it. They feel the difference between noise and resonance. And here's the most powerful part. You're not even trying to be that. You just are, effortlessly, honestly, finally. Because when you stop chasing peace, you remember this. Peace was never the goal. It was the foundation. And from that foundation, you build a life that doesn't break with pressure. You build a life that flows not because it's easy, but because you're real. You meet resistance with grace. You meet failure with wisdom. You meet endings with reverence. Because you no longer fear what falls away. You only fear one thing now, abandoning yourself. And that is a fear that keeps you honest. That keeps you aligned. That keeps you free. Because freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about never needing to betray yourself to feel safe. And peace is the echo of every moment you chose to be real. Peace is the rhythm that follows integrity. Peace is what remains when nothing is forced. So now, live like that. Be the one who no longer chases. Be the one who remembers. Be the one who returns. And let the world feel the power of someone who already island. Because when you already are, there is no hunger in your presence, only nourishment. No grasping, only gravity. No desperate signal, only silent, unshakable resonance. And the world doesn't quite know what to do with someone like that. Someone who walks into a room, not needing to be chosen because they already chose themselves. Someone who doesn't flinch when misunderstood because their truth is not up for debate. Someone who doesn't manipulate or perform but leads by existing fully, courageously, undeniably. You see, peace is not a mood. Peace is not an aesthetic. Peace is not soft music and incense and filtered joy. Peace is presence without distortion. It is clarity without compromise. It is intensity harnessed in stillness. It is fire contained in grace. It is what happens when you finally stop asking the world to calm down and become the calm yourself. Because no one can take from you what you no longer borrow for identity. No one can control what you no longer outsource for safety. No one can shake what you have reclaimed, and you've reclaimed it all now. Not just your time, your energy, your focus, but your center. You stepped out of the identity you once constructed to survive, and you've stepped into the one you were born to embody. You are no longer running. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer performing. You are simply here, in this body, in this breath, in this moment. And there is nothing more powerful than that, because the person who no longer chases peace is no longer at war. Not with the past, not with the future, not with themselves. They don't need revenge. They don't need applause. They don't need to be ahead. They just need to be in tune. And when you're in tune, life doesn't have to scream to get your attention. It whispers, it guides, it flows, and you flow with it. Effortless, limitless, free, because you stopped chasing. And that was the moment you became what no title could define, what no mirror could fully reflect, what no other person could validate or destroy. You became whole, not perfect, not invincible, not untouchable, whole. And wholeness is what peace was always pointing you toward. Wholeness is why every door that closed was actually mercy. Wholeness is why the chaos was never the enemy, it was the teacher. And now you no longer ask, why me, when things fall apart? You ask, what is this revealing in me that's ready to rise? Because now you trust the storm as much as the stillness. Now you welcome the trigger, not because it's comfortable, but because it's true. Now you don't run from the shadow, you integrate it. You hold your rage without letting it rot you. You feel your sadness without letting it define you. You channel your ambition without letting it enslave you. Because all of it, all the light, all the dark, all the unspoken pieces, they belong to you now. Nothing is exiled. Nothing is denied. And that is what it means to be free. Not to never fall, but to fall and stay conscious, to hurt and stay open, to lose and stay aligned, because you've stopped building your life on circumstances, and you've started building it on center. And that center is no longer something you access through willpower, control, or force. It's something you remember. It's something you return to. It's something you are. And the moment that awareness lives in your bones, in your breath, in your choices, you no longer live in the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. You live in the truth. You live in the now. You live in peace because you stopped chasing it. And in doing so, you became the kind of person the world can't ignore, not because you're loud, but because you're real. Not because you dominate, but because you resonate. You are no longer a seeker. You are the source. And everything that is meant for you, it doesn't need to be pursued. It arrives because it recognizes you. The peace, the presence, the power that was always waiting for you to stop running. And finally, return home. And now, standing here, no longer chasing, no longer proving, you realize you were never searching for peace. You were searching for permission to stop, to breathe, to be. And now you've given it to yourself. You've remembered what they tried to make you forget. That peace was never on the other side of success, applause, or control. It was on the other side of surrender, on the other side of coming back to yourself, not to a curated self, not to a strategic self, but to the truthful self, the self who doesn't perform for worth, the self who doesn't hustle for love, the self who doesn't grasp for meaning, but lives in it. This is the self who walks into the world not needing anything from it to feel complete. The self who creates not from fear of being forgotten, but from joy that cannot be contained. The self who is not obsessed with legacy, but with aliveness. And the moment you stop chasing peace, that self stood up unapologetically, unshakably, fully awake. And with every breath, you began to build something deeper than a dream. You began to build a life, not a perfect life, not a quiet life, but a real one that doesn't flinch at discomfort, one that doesn't shrink from the unknown, one that doesn't negotiate with chaos, but moves through it like light, because you are the light now. You are the calm. You are the fire. You are the peace that used to feel so far away. You didn't find it. You didn't force it. You became it. So walk, not fast, not loud, but true. And wherever you go, may the world feel what it forgot. Not the noise, not the chase, but the still fierce presence of someone who no longer needs to run. Someone who no longer waits to be chosen. Someone who no longer needs to chase peace. Because they finally remembered they are it.